So in the last video, I shared with you the biggest mistakes I made when I started my business and how neglecting to attend to my mindset caused me so much headache and delayed the progress in my business. So in this video, I'm sharing with you how I dealt with perfectionism and procrastination paralysis, which was the biggest struggle for me when it came to mindset, in the hope that it will help you to actually apply these same tools to help in your situation too. So if you have struggled with perfectionism and procrastination paralysis, then this is a video for you. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Doreca Delbridge and I'm an occupational psychologist. I help creatives like you with your mindset so you can turn what you know into your freedom business. If you're tired of squandering your potential and want to turn things around, make sure you grab the resources that I've put together for you in the Unconventional Hub. Links for that will be down in the description box below. If you're an ambitious creative, chances are you have had ideas that you've wanted to turn into money-making business like yesterday. Like most creatives, I suspect you're a little bit of a perfectionist and you hold really high standards and idealistic view of how things should be. Now, there's nothing wrong with having high standards or even being a little bit of a perfectionist. Think about it. Every time you've listened to a piece of music that moved you to tears, or you watched a story, or you read a book, chances are the person who wrote it scrutinized over every little detail to make it as perfect as they can, right? That's why you can hear a note and it can make you burst into tears, or it can move you to a place where you can't stay seated down. You got to stand up and dance, or you see a piece of art and it just moves you because it transports you to that place or that feeling, right? People who create beauty in that way tend to have a little bit of perfectionism in them. So nothing is wrong with being a perfectionist in that way. The problem is perfectionism can also cause you to procrastinate, continuously working on perfecting something before you even launch it. What ends up happening is you can end up working on one idea for months and years, and then you develop this crippling fear that it's never going to be perfect enough to offer it to the world. I did a workshop a couple weeks ago called Freedom Business First Steps, which is now part of the Unconventional Hub that I mentioned earlier. And the creatives that attended that workshop shared the same struggles. When they came to the workshop, they were already starting to doubt whether their idea was even worth pursuing. A lot of imposter syndrome was starting to kick in for them. And I was really proud of them because they banked on themselves. The fact that they invested the time and the money to be part of the workshop meant that they were taking that first step to turn their situation around. So I shared with them what I will briefly share with you, that they needed to identify the first smallest steps that they can take to test out the viability of the idea that they have. Because up to this point, they've only been working on things behind the scenes. We call this the artist approach in the previous video. The question was, are you an artist first? Or are you an entrepreneur first? And when you are always working on things and ideas in the background, never really taking it to the world, you tend to identify with being an artist first, meaning you're creating from the inside out rather than going to the world and finding out what they want and then creating the thing. So they actually really needed to first and foremost know if anybody out there in the real world will pay for what they actually have and what they've been building. So this is a business example because that's what the workshop is there to help people do. Take the first steps to actually turn the idea into money-making business. But what I'm sharing with you today, you can apply in whatever area you're experiencing perfectionism and procrastination paralysis. And I know the first resistance that's going to come up is, Doreca, this sounds a little bit too simple. How is this going to help me with something that I have struggled with and now feels like it's part of my identity? But stay with me as I go through this next part, because this will be your ticket out of perfectionism, procrastination, paralysis. So here's the thing. Research has shown that we learn better from successes than we do from failures. And our brain has a way of quickly learning what helps us to succeed so that it can repeat that same thing over and over. This is called self-fulfilling cycle. But for the self-fulfilling cycle to emerge, you have to act and act appropriately. Most of the time, you are stuck in the perfectionism, procrastination, paralysis and fail to enter this self-fulfilling cycle because of three things. One, you focus on steps that are too big, or you want to change change too many things at once, or you try to make drastic changes in a very short period of time. Often it takes a really small change to get things moving in the right direction. So what you need to do is take that overwhelming big idea or overwhelming big thing that you have and break it into small chunks and start taking very specific, not too difficult, short-term focused steps. When you do that, you enter into this positive spiral of learning and building confidence, which leads to building what is called self-efficacy in psychology. Simply put, self-efficacy is the belief that you can carry out what is necessary to realize your goals. Research has shown that the higher your self-efficacy, the more likely you'll be committed to your goals. And so we develop self-efficacy through the self-fulfilling cycle of achievement and confidence. So the quicker and more small steps you take, the more chances of building this cycle. The thing is, the process will feel really hard in the beginning before it feels really natural for you to do. This is an infographic that I actually share with my students to help them be prepared of what lies ahead. In the Unconventional Hub, I do teach you how to actually break down a bigger goal into small steps and how to map them out and actually take them. Most of my students really appreciate this infographic because they're able to see what the journey ahead can look like, and it helps them prepare to know that as they're coming out of that comfort zone where they're actually feeling stuck with that perfectionism, procrastination, paralysis, they will have to pass through the fear zone before it gets better. And it's that fear zone that most of the time people feel that discomfort of it, that they revert back to that comfort zone and remain stuck in that perfectionism, procrastination, paralysis. Because to them, when they start to feel the discomfort of that fear zone, they equate to, I must not be ready, let me just go back to more research, more preparation, instead of understanding, it's okay. This is what this horrible fear zone feels like. And then after this, I will go into my learning zone before I get to that growth zone. Do you see what I mean? Now, growing through that discomfort can be a little tricky, which is the resource I actually provide in the course, The Inner Critic Antidote, to make sure that that person that needs to have that know-how can have it and progress through and not abandon the whole thing and just go back to that stuck place. And it's amazing when we start taking those small steps, the things that can happen in the process. Just the other week when I ran the workshop, one of the students, Ashley, reached out to me like 3 days later and shared with me like an amazing story. And I just want to read this to you. This is what she said. The workshop helped me to identify that my first steps need to lead me out of my comfort zone and through the fear zone. And your feedback helped me to see that I need to go ahead and reach out to find work before I feel 100% ready. This is not employed work. She's talking about her business idea. Because knowing me, I will never feel 100% ready and will just keep researching and researching in my comfy little comfort zone forever, and nothing will change. I reached out to a family member who I had talked briefly about writing for in the past, but I never followed up because I didn't feel confident, and I still don't feel confident. This will be my first big project. It was a small step, but one of the biggest I have taken in a while. Her story to me is just inspirational. She's learning to grow through the fear zone. And the thing is, all of us experience that whenever we embark on something new, we have to go through that growth place where imposter syndrome kicks in and we don't feel like we know enough to actually act. And that's why we need that support and accountability so that we don't revert back, but we keep going, right? And that's what I provide in the workshops and in the programs that I actually offer. And if you want more information about those, I'll make sure to link them down in the description below. And just to encourage you, there are more stories just like Ashley's that I hope to share with you in the future videos. This is all to say, it is very possible. And sometimes when we think this sounds way too simple to actually break me out of this loop, research has shown it's just these little things that start to build this snowball effect. And the more you take these steps, the more confidence that you build, and the more your brain learns what works and keeps you going past that fear zone and continues forward to where you actually want to realize your dream. Does that make sense? Did you find that helpful? If you did, then make sure you give this video a like because it tells the YouTube algorithm to show it to more people like you so it can also help them as well. And also remember to share this video in the communities that you frequent so that it can help somebody else who may also be struggling with perfectionism and procrastination paralysis. Make sure you check these videos next. That will help you along in your journey. And as we always say in this channel, focus on your being than doing. And I'll see you in the next video.